Today, I wanted to do something a little bit different. While looking at the night sky, I have my sea star set up and it was imaging, but this video I did with my iPhone. I just recently got me a new iPhone. I got me the brand new iPhone 17. It would work with other versions too, but I'm just letting you know what I used. And created this photo by using a couple of different apps, and I'm going to explain to you those apps. I'll show you how to use them, and then we'll show you some of the video I captured of creating these star trails to make that photo. So if you're interested in that, stick with me and we will go through the process together. So before we begin, I will talk about the apps that I used. I used three separate apps to create this image, and I just downloaded them to my phone. The first one I used was Sky Safari 7 Pro. And this one I just downloaded from the App Store, Google Play, or the App Store, and it was $12.99. And that's a lifetime subscription to Sky Safari 7 Pro. There are in-app purchases. I didn't do any of those. This is all I did is the $12.99. This one is kind of an optional one. If as long as you have another Sky Atlas kind of app or something that you can locate Polaris in. If you can do that without an app, you wouldn't need this app. So you could use Star Walk. I've used that app before. It was cheaper than this one, but I had recently downloaded this one at a referral from a friend, told me to try it out, so I'm giving it a try. So that's why I downloaded it. There are other options. As long as you can use the compass on the phone and center Polaris on your iPhone, that's what you need for this Sky Safari 7 Pro. So if you have something already that will work, you wouldn't need this one. The next app I used was one called Nightcap Camera, and it was only $2.99, and that's you don't have to renew that every year or anything. It's $2.99. I believe there are probably in-app purchases. I didn't do anything extra. It was $2.99, and this is the one that is going to capture the star trails and image the image that we're trying to gather the exposures from to create that image. So Nightcap Camera is the one that I'm using next. The last app I'm going to use is Star Tracker, and it was an app that cost $3.99. Again, I think there were in-app purchases you could do. I didn't do any of that. I'm just using Star Tracker. It was $3.99, and it'll be on my phone forever, so I can use it whenever I want. And so those are the three apps I'm going to use. The Sky Safari Pro is an optional one and a little bit more expensive than the others. So if you have another option that would help you find Polaris, that's totally acceptable and will work just fine as long as you can center Polaris in the screen of your iPhone. And we're going to show the process that we went through to show you how to do it. So hopefully that will make a little bit more sense as we do that process. But that's the apps that we used. And now let's get started on showing you how we created the image. So the only other item that you need other than your iPhone or your Galaxy phone is a tripod of some sort. And I just used a selfie stick. And this is what a selfie stick looks like. For those of you that don't know what that is, it just has a little portable tripod. It's all stuck together and it telescopes out so that when you're walking around town or whatever and you want to take a picture, you can hold it away from you and take a selfie. But this is what I ended up using. There's no big criteria for this. It just has to be something that will hold it steady because it's going to take you some time to take all these exposures of the star trails. And so you need something that's going to hold steady. One thing I do like about this one, and most selfie sticks come with this, is a little removable clicker device. It hooks Bluetooth to your phone so that when you're holding it away from you, you can press the shutter button. And you can't see it super good in this image. It just wasn't a good angle to take it, but I'll kind of point it out. It's just this little removable thing. You take that out and you hold that in your hand. So when you're ready to take the photo, you just click the button on this and it advances the shutter on your camera and takes the picture so that you don't have to actually touch the camera or the iPhone while you're taking the picture. So you just need something that's going to hold steady. It could be a tripod. You can put a delay shutter on using the app we're going to talk about. And so this isn't vital that you have one of those clicker thingies. So, whatever you have that will hold your phone steady. You could even just prop it up with something. So as long as it's pointing to Polaris and can stay there and you're able to click the go button, that's really sufficient. So the first app that I'm going to use is one called Sky Safari Pro. And I just recently got this one. Someone suggested it to me, so I thought I would try it out. I frequently use Star Walk, but today I'm going to use this Sky Safari. And so when I open the app, up here in the top right-hand corner, there's a compass dial. And I'm going to turn that so that the compass is working. And what it does is it shows you as you move your phone around what you can see in the sky at that time. And what I need to do is I need to find out where Polaris is. And there it is. So when I put my phone on the selfie stick, I'm going to center Polaris as good as I can get and then tighten down the selfie stick so that my phone is pointed at Polaris. And the reason I'm going to do that is because the stars, as they rotate around the pole, that's what produces that rotation in that image. And so I want the Polaris to be as close to center. It doesn't have to be exact when it's imaging so that everything will rotate around Polaris. Or at least that's what it appears to be doing, because that's the axis of the Earth and how the Earth rotates. It's not that the stars are moving that direction, it's that the Earth is. And so we need to get Polaris center. You can try this on different areas of the sky, but it won't give the same effect because those stars closest to Polaris, or we can see close on this image, are going to rotate at a different speed, it seems, around Polaris. And so if we have that in the center, it's going to create that circular star trails around Polaris. And so that's what we're going to do tonight. So we set up our selfie stick with our iPhone clamped in, basically aiming it at Polaris. And that's where we're going to start. So now that we have Polaris in the center of the screen, we're going to start with this app called Nightcap. And this one is actually going to be the camera portion. I'm just going to show how to set it up. So you come to this screen and it's pretty self-explanatory. All I do is I go into the settings, that little gear icon up at the top, and you can rotate this. You can rotate this app to be longer than the gear icons on the left. But if I'm just looking at it like I would hold my cell phone, the gear icon is at the top. Either way is fine. There are some settings in here. There's not tons, so if I swipe, you see it goes up and down, not very far, because there's not very many settings in here. There are some tutorials, support, blah, blah, blah. You can change the brightness on your image, and you would be able to see that in the screen. So you can see that I'm indoors as I'm doing this, but you can change those to what you like. This middle portion, it allows you to save it as a JPEG, a high quality JPEG, or a TIFF file. Now, a JPEG is going to take less memory on your phone. So if you're running out of space on your phone, it's going to save a lot of exposure. So if you're running out of space, you would use JPEG because that's going to take the least amount of memory on your phone. The high quality JPEG is just a little bit better than a regular JPEG. And then the TIFF file is a higher quality than that. I have found that the high quality JPEG works just fine. I haven't actually done it with just using the JPEG, But this is not one that you're going to have to zoom in and get really good details on nebula or anything like that. And so the JPEG is probably totally sufficient. This one lets you turn on the delay on the shutter. So when you click go, it gives you a little delay before it begins. And I just have mine set for 5 seconds. With my little selfie stick and the little clicker, I really don't even need a delay. I just do that because I set it up on a deck. And if I go and set it up and then click go and then I run back in the house, the deck can shake just a little bit just because it's not on solid ground. And so I put a little 5 second delay. That gives me time to get off of the deck and back into my house, and then it starts imaging. And so the interval programmer, you want to turn that on because you want it to take individual exposures as the sky is rotating. And so the interval programmer is what you want to set for how long you want the exposures to be. So this very first box, it has a little slider here, and you can have it take 1 time the exposure image, 2 times, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to infinity. And that's what I want it to do because I'm going to set this outside for quite a long, lengthy period of time. And so I want it to continue doing this until I go and turn it off. You could do it 9 times and then it would take 9 individual exposures. Well, that's not going to be enough to see those star trails. And so I put it to infinity. 10-second exposures is what I've used. You can experiment around. The very first attempt I did on it, I used 5-second exposures and it worked fine, but I liked the 10-second ones because it just elongated those stars a little quicker. So at the beginning of the video, they appeared quicker so that it wasn't quite so boring right there at the beginning. And then the 5 seconds in between, the delay in between each exposure, I think is what that is. And then I turned the ISO to low, and then this shutter thing down at the bottom. If I'm using a selfie stick, this is where it tells it that it's being controlled by that. So if I'm going to just do it with my phone, I turn that off, and you can see the little buttons on the phone are the first one. If I'm going to use a shutter clicker, you can, if you don't have a selfie stick, you can plug in the headphones that came with your phone, and as long as it has a volume controller on those headphone wires, that will act as a shutter executor as well. And so turning this button on and off tells this program that you're going to be controlling it with something other than touching the screen and turning it on. And so that all those are set. Then we click the gear icon to turn that off. And now we're back to the main screen here. And what we're going to do is we're going to click the star icon in the bottom left-hand corner. And that's going to bring up the options for what kind of things we want to do. And we're going to do the star trails mode. And you can see it gives you a little description and tells you a little bit about it. Tap that to close, and it's turning bright because it's changing the shutter, the focus and the aperture, and it's opening it wide because it knows that for star trails you do it at night, and so it's opening that aperture to let as much light in as possible. And right now I'm doing it inside my house, and so that's why you're seeing that white screen. When you're outside at night, you will start seeing like a night mode screen. You'll see whatever you're looking at, kind of like with a night vision camera is what it will look like. But just make sure that star trails mode is green, that little green light by it, and that's how you know that it's all set up. And now you've got Polaris centered in the center of your screen. We can turn off that so that it's actually just looking at I'm trying to cover that up so that it'll show you more, but there's really just too much light coming in there. And then if I do any, I guess I won't bother with it. If you're outside, you'll see something in that screen other than the white screen. And then when you're all ready to go, you just click the little button here and you can see it beeps. And it's not going to be saving things because it can't focus in on anything. If you need to focus once you're outside, you just click on the screen somewhere and it gives it a second, and then the little green light down in the bottom under focus will turn green once it's in focus, and then you can start. And instead of just clicking the little red button on the screen, you can use your little clicker if you've set it in the settings to use an outside device to activate the shutter. And so that's kind of what we're going to do. And okay, so once we are done imaging, I imaged these the other night, so they're in my photo album. It saves those individual exposures to your photo album on your phone. And so to view those, up in the top left-hand corner, click on the picture of the images. And then what comes up is every one of those little exposures that are saved. Now, as for time, the image that I took, I imaged for 1 hour of those 5-second exposures. And so there were like 600 exposures total because there was a little wait time in between each exposure. So it saves a whole bunch. And then let's see. And then they're saved in your phone. And so now we've got all the exposures saved. This app is what we used to do that. So the next app that we're going to use is this Star Stacker app. And when you pull it up, it saves the last image that you were working on, and it happened to be that I was going through this. And so that's why that image is there. But this is a fairly simple program and it works really well. I was amazed at how easy it works. Up in the top left-hand corner, you're going to click on the picture icon, and then it brings up all of those photos that you just took with that camera app. And so what you do is you hold your finger on it. If you click on it and hold it, it's going to open it so you can view it. But I'm just going to hold my finger down on it. Let's see. I hold my finger and swipe it across and down the screen, and then it's going to highlight a whole bunch. Well, I had removed them from my phone, so I had to put more back in here just to do the video. I had 600 exposures, and I put 48 back on so that we could do this video. So you're going to select those 48 photos, and then for you, it's going to be more than that because ideally you're going to do at least an hour. And I think what I'm going to do once the skies clear up is I'm going to do 2 hours so that those stars really get bright and brilliant and you can really see that bullseye circle around Polaris. I think that more would be better. But for the image that I showed in the video, that was an hour-long saving of the exposures. And it accounted for about 600 exposures. It doesn't save them if it detects that there's a problem. And so you can reasonably expect not to get every single exposure that it takes. So you select all the exposures you want it to stack. And then in the top right-hand corner, you click that little check mark. And then it comes up, it says checking and then ready for stacking. And that little wording is going to flash across that screen. It's going to go fast because I only had 48. If you have 600, it's going to take it longer to check those. And what it's checking for is to see that it can do the stacking on those. And so it did it, and it says ready for stacking. Well, now the only thing you have to do is click that little stacking icon right there in the top middle, and it opens this so that you can do a few different things. So the stacking order, you can go frontwards or backwards. And so if you want the stars to rotate as they normally would if you were viewing it in the sky, you would do it clockwise. And if you wanted to go backwards, you could do it counterclockwise. And then there's different trail styles. I always just do the full one. I didn't notice a big difference. Maybe it'd be a bigger difference if I did longer than the hour, but I just do full, and then I do the highest resolution. And then the warp mode, I don't do warp mode normally. I did do one, and I'll attach that in the end of this video so you can see what that looks like. But I usually turn that off, and then I want it to do an individual video. Now, when I do this, you're going to watch it live stack, just kind of like you do when you're on the C Star and things live stack. You're going to watch it on the screen. And then once it's done, you can export that final image and it will save it to your phone, or I think you can email it to yourself, or you can export it. What I did to create the video is I just did a screen save. So for those of you that don't know how to do a screen save, you swipe down from the top of your iPhone and it brings up this little bullseye circle thing. And if you tap on that, it starts recording your screen. And so that's what I did to create the video. But normally I would just create an image from this. But if you want to do a video, you would want to learn how to do that screen saving or the recording of your screen. And then I just click start in the top right hand corner. And then here it is. You can see the percentages it goes through. You can see that it's only doing 48 images, so it's not going to be a lot, but that's how I created that video. And then once it's done, it'll appear on the screen. And you can do a screenshot of it, or you can click this little box with the arrow in it and export it and save it as a JPEG, a TIFF, or a movie. When I saved it as a movie, what it did is it saves all those exposures as a movie. So it would go one, like it was different scenes. So each exposure was a different scene. So you didn't see the movement, you just saw it go through each exposure like a film reel. And so that's not going to create the movie that you think it's going to create. And so that's how I did it. And it was a fun experiment. I'm going to do it again when the skies clear up and add more time onto it. So hopefully you've learned something new and you'll give it a try. I want to really, I'm thinking I want to try this on water and waterfalls and things too. So there's multiple uses we can use for these apps that I've downloaded. Um, Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something. I will attach the videos here. I will do some still images. I did export some of the still images into Photoshop or just on your phone app and darken it, or you could do a little bit of editing. You can't really get in and edit. You wouldn't want to edit 600 little exposures, but you can edit it in the phone on the final image. If you want to create a video, learn how to do that screen recording. And all you do is put your finger up at the top of your iPhone and swipe down, and then it brings up this screen like this, and it's that bottom button on the left with the red dot in it. That's what's recording this screen. And if that button is not there, all you have to do is go into the settings of your iPhone and add that to the control center. And so that's how you do this. And I will include the videos. And I'll include the warp video one. That one's kind of interesting too. It's the same exact exposures, but I used that warp setting. And then I'll include a couple of the still images. Hope you enjoyed this little look into making star trails. Give it a go. Let me know if you enjoyed doing it. Thanks for watching. This is the screen video recording of that stacking process, and I just cropped out all of the details from that stacking app. But this is what the video looks like, and I did speed it up just a little bit so it wouldn't take so long. It was about 1.5 minutes total, and so I sped it up a little so you wouldn't have to watch that much. And then it just shows it generating those star trails along the way, so it's pretty cool. You can definitely see the rotation in it. I love it. I think it's awesome. This is a still image that I took, and I did export this one into Photoshop and made the color a little more blue. You can see the airplanes that went through. Those exposures, you could go in and exclude those if you wanted to so that they wouldn't be in there at all. But I left them because it just added some character to it. And this is the warp one. I did the same thing, just did a screen recording, and then I sped it up a little bit in here, about like I did the other one, but it just creates a different look of the outcome. It makes it look like a warp speed. The Starship Enterprise is going into warp, I guess. I guess that's the idea behind this one. But it definitely makes it look a little bit different than just the regular Star Trails one. Looks more like a starburst instead of a bullseye. So this is the warp version. Yeah, and you can go in and exclude any of those plain exposures that, or the ones with satellites before you do the stacking if you don't want those in there. So that's the warp. And then here it is again, just the final end result. And I just think it turned out great. I think if I did it for 2 minutes or 2 hours rather than 1 hour, it would really show up more and become more like, headlights on a freeway, those kind of night photography they do. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. It was a fun little project, and I'd love to hear about your experience trying it. Clear skies, everybody.